Sunken Condos, Donald Fagen, released October 2012. So we are now, Sunken Condos, released October 2012, the fourth Donald Fagen solo record. We are now coming up on, 13 years this October. Now, traditionally, there has been long lapses in time for at least two or three of the Fagen solo records. So first of all, if we start and take a look at the timeline, 1982, The Night Fly. Then there was a 11-year gap between 1993's Kamakiriad, which eventually led to Morph the Cat in 2006. But remember, between Kamakiriad and Morph the Cat, we got a reunited Steely Dan as a fully performing entity. And there were two records. There was Two Against Nature in 2000, and then Everything Must Go, the final Steely Dan studio record released in 2003. So only a 3-year gap between Morph the Cat and Everything Must Go. And then finally, and I hope it's not finally, Sunken Condos, released in October 2012. It begs the question, is that it? And, there are serious things out there that we now know about. We know that Fagen had an illness and he was hospitalized when, what was this, 2 or 3 years ago now. It was announced that Steely Dan was going to be the opener for the Eagles on this kind of, is it over yet? I don't know. This kind of worldwide farewell tour. Fagen was hospitalized with an illness. And then Steely Dan basically had to pull out of the second, there was a second set of dates, and Steely Dan eventually had to pull out entirely. We didn't know much, but we knew Fagen had been ill. And then finally we got word last October that Donald Fagen's wife, Libby Titus, passed away. So, there's that happening. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because during the pandemic, during the lockdown, Donald Fagen actually is on record as saying that he worked up enough songs for a new album, and he had actually gotten to the demo stage. And that makes me wonder if we just need more time for Mr. Fagen. I don't, it's kind of a wait and see. But I sincerely hope there will be more music, and I don't care how long it takes. Let's hope that there is more to come from Donald Fagen. What I did is I pulled out this record, Sunken Condos, about a week ago because I hadn't heard it for over a year. And believe me, I try to cycle through my collection. I try to remember to pull things out that I haven't heard in a long time. And I was not, after the Katie Lied UHQR came out, I was kind of toast on Steely Dan for a while. I needed a break. I haven't even picked up the Royal Scam UHQR yet. Anyway, pull this out and really kind of just pleasantly surprised again at the quality of the songs, the quality of the musicianship, as you would expect. This one was a little bit different. It was co-produced by Michael Leonhardt, who is Donald Fagen's one of the main trumpet players in the touring Steely Dan band. Now that's another question. That whole enterprise has stopped. We don't know if that's the end of Steely Dan as a touring outfit or not. Back to the recording of Sunken Condos. With, some research and interviews, we know that Donald Fagen, he embarked on a really cool tour called the Dukes of September. And I believe that was back in 2010. He went out with Boz Scaggs and Michael McDonald, and it was a very, very fun show. There was a video recording of the tour. I think it was from 2012. They kind of went back and forth and did some different legs of that tour. It went to Japan, etc. I saw that show at Red Rocks, and it was fantastic. But they would pull out covers. Fagen was doing a Grateful Dead song, and they would throw in, kind of a greatest hits mix from Boz and from McDonald, and of course from Fagen. And they would choose, all three of them, some cool covers to do. Really fantastic show. So around 2010, he was doing that, but he had also worked up a bunch of songs, and he asked Michael Leonhardt to come into a studio with him and take a look at some demos and work up a couple of the demos. Michael Leonhardt actually, they put down some rhythm tracks, some basic tracks, and just on a lark, Michael Leonhardt played drums. And Fagen, in interviews, said, you know what? I really like the feel of his playing. And he ended up being the drummer on the record. So really interesting. The other interesting tidbit is this was recorded in kind of fits and starts. Fagen didn't go out and book studio time, at River Sound or someplace like that in Manhattan. He actually had a buddy who was an attorney who lives on the Upper West Side. I'm not sure if he's still with us or not. I was trying to do some research on him. And he has a brownstone on the Upper West Side. There is a basement studio where there was a 9-foot grand piano in the studio, and that, I think, immediately caught Fagen's eye. And knowing that he could just kind of, maybe an email or two or a phone call, we learned about that Upper West Side studio from an interview with William Gallison. Now, William Gallison received an email kind of out of the blue from Michael Leonhardt back in, I think, 2011, asking him if he could show up at this address for a 3-hour recording session with Donald Fagen. He probably knew that he was working with Fagen at that point in time. But what happened is Michael Leonhardt sent him a Dropbox, a link to 2 tracks that they had in mind for him. And he actually was able to kind of listen to those for 2 or 3 weeks and think of some ideas, do some practicing. And he showed up at the address, and a kind of a gruff attorney in his office on the ground floor of this apartment said, "Oh yeah, they're downstairs," and led him downstairs. So downstairs was a 9-foot grand piano, and there is Donald Fagen and Michael Leonhardt with kind of the worked up 2 tracks that they had in mind for William Gallison. And those 2 tracks were the lead single, I'm Not the Same Without You, which is fantastic, by the way, and then another track, The New Breed. So, I'm Not the Same Without You, very Nightfly-ish if you listen to that song closely. And interesting, choice of, there's 2 solo sections, and they hand it to a harmonica player instead of like a sax or a guitar solo. Now, it's a very cool, I'm Not the Same Without You is one of the best songs on the record, along with, I'm going to say, Weather in Your Head. Now, Weather in Your Head was worked up and performed live on the David Letterman show in November of 2012. On the record, John Harrington, longtime guitarist with the Steely Dan Orchestra, he handled the majority of the guitar tracks, unlike Morph the Cat. Now, Morph the Cat, Wayne Krantz, fantastic player, was all over to Morph the Cat. was all over Morph the Cat. If you look at that Weather in My Head live performance, you will see two guitar players. The lead is Wayne Krantz. So John Harrington must have been booked or something. And Keith Carlock is on drums. So you will see Michael Leonhardt in the background on trumpet, kind of the band leader. He is kind of the default band leader. He has been the default band leader for several years with the Steely Dan live organization. You know, I found this a couple years ago. I think I paid $75 for it. I was just on Discogs, just curious. And it is like hard to find. It's going for $149 currently, median. I saw a sealed one that went for $200 plus. Really good recording. Sounds great. It does not sound as good as Morph the Cat, in my opinion. This was mastered at Masterdisc. Scott Hull did the work on this. I think he did the work. I think he originally mastered Two Against Nature as well. The interesting fact here is that back to the recording process, they used several different studios, and there is an engineer credited, on Pro Tools. So we know it was a digital recording. The fact that they didn't kind of lay everything down in one place, I think it makes a difference. So they were kind of piecemealing things. There were fits and starts in the recording process. And it's a great pressing. It sounds really good. It sounds good on CD. I just don't think the dynamics are the same as, let's say, Morph the Cat. And I think the gold standard is Kamakuriad. The original pressing of Kamakuriad is absolutely amazing. And of course, we all know about the recording quality of the Nightfly. If you've got the one step, you should be, sitting there with a big smile on your face. If you don't, like I don't miss it, because the standard Masterdisc RL cut of the Nightfly is simply amazing. So that is Sunken Condos. Slinky Thing, it leads off with Slinky Thing. Reading some reviews, a lot of people say, oh, it's kind of a remake of Hey 19. There's kind of a creepy guy involved with a much younger girlfriend. I can kind of see that, but it's its own song. It's in its own right. And one thing about this record, there is incredible groove and funk on this thing. And I think the funk has to do with the influence of Michael Leonhardt. Not that Donald Fagen is not funky and doesn't know anything about a groove. He is the groove meister of all time. But Leonhardt, I think, brought a little bit of a more funkier, let's say, vibe to the record. And it's a great sounding record. Again, I hadn't heard it in a long time and pulled it out in jaw-droppingly good. It's a double record. It's a double 33, and side 4 is blank. So it's spread across 3 sides. Well worth seeking out if you can find it. It is getting to be expensive, as mentioned before. Very nice set of lyrics and credits included. Decent packaging, very good pressing quality. That's today's video. I wanted to delve into whether or not, we just don't know. We don't know. And it's kind of dumb to just speculate. So I'm going to stop speculating, but I am hoping for new music from Donald Fagen at some point in time when he is ready. We know that he had enough new music for a new record, and there's been issues with life in the meantime, and we hope that he can get to a point when he feels comfortable with releasing new music. Now, we do know that he did that one track with Todd Rundgren, Tinfoil Hat. When was that? I think that was coming out of the pandemic, but really fun song. If you haven't heard it, look it up. Tinfoil Hat, Todd Rundgren and Donald Fagen. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back soon.